I'm going to just go and sharing something small with you that came my way. And I want to thank one of our attendees, Batya, for actually bringing this to my attention. I was so excited that she shared this with me. There was an article that was sent out. I don't know if any of you have seen it. I'm going to put the link over here because it's definitely worth a read. I would highly recommend it. So I'm going to put it into the chat. And I'm just going to share this with you very, very briefly. It's talking about the segula to be protected, from terror attacks. I'm going to share my screen with you so you could see this. It's really something very, very incredible that was shared with me. Hold on. I think the rabbi might be joining, so I might have to share it in a moment. And basically what it was sharing is that after the terror attacks that happened in Bnei Brak, there was an incredible story that came about a paramedic named Menachem Engelder, who was saved from almost death, and it was publicized all over the media. He happens to be a Bnei Brak resident, and he heard the shooting from his home, and he immediately went out to the street, and he encountered a terrorist that was pointing a gun straight at him. And although the terrorist tried to shoot him several times, he recited Shema Yisrael, and the gun jammed. And he fled the scene and ran back to his home, and he locked the door and he called the police. Now, look at what it says over here. According to the Haredim report, the day after the attack, Menachem's father, Harav Yoel Englander, who serves as Moret Tzedek in the Grar Kila in Haifa, called the Biala Rebbe of Ramat Aharon to thank him for saving his son in the Zechut of his Segula that the Rebbe wrote about in his Sefer. What was the Segula? The Segula was to do with Netilat Yadayim. Not the Netilat Yadayim to do with bread, but the Netilat Yadayim to do with doing after the bathroom or cutting your nails. And he said that the Segula is that when one is required to wash Netilat Yadayim without a bracha, like when you leave the bathroom or when you cut your nails, he should be careful to immediately wash his hands thoroughly, 3 times on each side, without talking in between. This is an excellent shemirah, he writes down. From murder by Yishmaelim, it's tried and tested. This is what the rabbi wrote. On top of that, there have been additional instances, there have been additional reports of people that have shared how that performing the Netilat Yadayim after the bathroom, immediately after, without speaking in between, saved them as well from similar attacks. I thought this to be absolutely incredible. I put you the link so that you can read it there yourself. And I want to just thank you, Batya, for sharing that with us, because I thought it was incredible to read. So I know we talk about the Netilat Yadayim before we eat bread. We talk about the Netilat Yadayim that we do in the morning when we say the beracha. But the Netilat Yadayim that we do after we leave the bathroom, after cutting our nails, without a beracha, the importance of doing it immediately, even being able to, even having the cup there so that you can wash in the bathroom and then you go outside, and drying your hands immediately before you speak. What a tremendous, tremendous segula for us to take into our lives. I'm so excited to be introducing our next speaker. And don't forget, if you've just come in the middle and you didn't hear the entire shiur, not to worry. This will all be posted on our YouTube channel, and I will be sending out an email if you registered for the event. I'll be sending out an email tomorrow with the playback so that you can review different points that you may have missed or go back to things that you may have forgotten. I'm excited to introduce Rav Yom Tov Glaser. And I have to just say, I want to give a very big happy birthday to the Rav, because it is his birthday today. So I'm so excited that he's giving us of his time on his birthday. And it's also the week of Pesach. So much is going on. Rav Yom Tov Glaser is the son of a successful sportswear manufacturer. Rav Yom Tov was raised in the foothills of Hollywood, California. Years of surfing, mountain biking, music, and partying left Yom Tov with insight and inquiry into human character, meaning of life, and alternative spirituality. And in 1998, Yom Tov received rabbinic ordination from Rabbi Natan Kopshitz of Beit Shemesh and Rav Yitzchak Berkowitz of Eish HaTorah. He then trained in psycho-spiritual therapy with renowned Jerusalem-based psychotherapist Efim Svirsky, and credits his coursework with introducing him to his gifts in spiritual therapy. Rav Yom Tov Glaser is one of the top dresses in the Jewish world for helping individuals break through deep emotional, psychological blocks and come closer to Hashem. And since 2000, Rabbi Glaser has been a senior rabbi at Eish HaTorah's World Center in the Old City of Jerusalem. Known as a master order, Rabbi Yom Tov Glaser can be found lecturing and entertaining, of course, for groups and organizations worldwide. Few people can hold a crowd's attention as Rav Yom Tov. And regardless of his audience age or level of Jewish observance, he definitely knows how to pump up the crowd. And in 2002, Rav Glaser founded the internationally acclaimed Possible You Seminar. This is a week-long self-transformation experience which he offers both in Jerusalem and abroad. It is my pleasure, without further ado, to introduce Rav Yom Tov Glaser. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you on here, Rabbi, and thank you for joining us on your birthday. I actually attended one of your classes when I first came to Israel, right before I made Aliyah. It was the summer right before I made Aliyah, when I was deliberating coming to Israel. And I remember attending one of your classes at H. So it's a pleasure to see you again.
Likewise. What city do you live in now?
Yerushalayim. I'm 18 minutes from door to wall. The wall of the Kotel.
What neighborhood are you in?
Next to Mimila.
Okay, right on. And we're in Nachlo.
David HaMelech.
Yeah, cool. Okay, amazing. Shalom, everybody. Yes, I'm born on Yud Nisan. Yud Nisan, amazingly, after years of running a seminar, which in America is actually 4 days, that I actually take people, on the 10th of Nisan is when you take the sheep and you tie it to the bed. What's the bed? The bed's, houses didn't have big rooms in those days. It was like the bed meant your inner room, like your inner world. And then you gotta look into yourself. You gotta examine. You gotta look for blemishes. And what's that blemish? That's that thin little scrawny sheep. You ever seen a sheep after it was shorn? It looks like an overgrown rodent. It's just a goopy lanolin. Lanolin's from the sheep sweat. It's just a grimy meitzar. And what do? We puff ourselves out with ego, with semer. And semer is Isius meitzar. It's the same letters as meitzar. And I actually was born to run a program that you spend 4 days just totally going into yourself until you shecht it. You shecht all the stupid stories that don't serve us in our lives, that we've been, the ones that sadly, not the best therapists will write off on, where the good ones will take you to task on those stories. But some will write off on them and make you write, and, you'll point your fingers at them. Whereas this kind of work means you have to point the other three are pointing at you. And you got to realize it's your story that's making your Mitzrayim, and you got to shecht the sheep, and you got to go into freedom. And so that's my birthday, Yud Nisan. So happy Yud Nisan for everyone in Israel, and happy almost Yud Nisan for everyone outside of Israel. And it's a very big day. Today we're talking about the washing of the hands, and I think my son's coming in here. So we got a sweet little Yerushalmi kid joining us here. Look at that boy. Oh my gosh. So sweet. So say hi, Shirley. Hi. Anyway, that's Yisrael Noach, named after Rav Yisrael Noach Weinberg, the Rosh Yeshiva Veshet Torah, my Rebbe. So anyway, and we're talking about washing the hands. Now, hands throughout Torah and amazingly throughout literature represent doing. They represent the world of doing. And whereas the neshama is a state of being. So the neshama is always this state of being, and the hands represent our doing. Now, Westerners believe that doing is what leads to being, ultimately. You just got to do and do and do, kind of like it said on the gates of Auschwitz, where it said, Arbeiten macht frei, that work, that doing will make you free, that if you do, you will be. And it is the great lie of Westernism. It's the American nightmare, that everyone's going to do and do and do and do and do. But you know what happens when you do is you get doo-doo everywhere. And they'll put on your tombstone when you die, they'll write done. Whereas the Yid is the Kol Yaakov, right? Yadayim Yadei Esav. Kol is the Kol of Yaakov. It's the voice of Yaakov. The voice is the ultimate expression of being. Like our voice, our self-expression is our ultimate expression of being. And the hands represent the Yadayim Askanius, the busy hands, the hands that are involved in the physical world. So we wash our hands in various times, but specifically, we got Negelwasser in the morning. We've got Netilat Yadayim for bread. We've got Negelwasser for benching. And we've got, obviously, whenever you have wet fruit, as you just heard from the Rabbanit, and including, obviously, karpas, which we'll be washing for in urchatz when we get on Seder night. And the avoda of washing the hands is washing out the doing when we're getting involved in something that's very physical. So the most physical thing we do is is basically what we share with the animal kingdom, which is survival and reproduction. We're only going to focus on survival, although even with reproduction, the Chazal say to wash before and after. But here, this is discussing bread. The eating of bread requires, you're going to go get involved in physicality. So when you're involved in physicality, now it's time to wash. And what are we washing? We're washing off the yeshus, the ego that's involved, because you can't have bread. Well, bread's money, the dough, where's the dough? So bread represents money, bread represents the busyness, bread represents the ego. And being involved in that ego is what we're washing off before we move our way into the sanctity of a meal. When a Jew eats food, think about our holiest days, we're always eating. The holiest days of the rest of the world, they're always fasting. The holiest days of we're going to eat, and we're going to make a whole celebration. In fact, if it's Yom Tov, we're going to add a dish than we would have if it had been Shabbos. We're going to add more food because it's even holier that it's a Yom Tov. But we start with first washing our hands. Just so you know, a lot of people don't know this, that the Mayim Achronim before you bench is now you're about to get involved with something very high. That's Birkas Hamazon. I studied with my Mor Derech, Shalom Shachna Friedman, the Hornsteipler Rebbe. We learned the whole siddur. It took us about 5 years. We sat on it every Thursday night for about 3 hours every Thursday night. And when we finally got to benching, we were so excited because it took us 2 years to go through Shachris. And we got to benching, the whole class was like, whoa, like, okay, we got a little break now because we're going to do benching. Guess what? Benching was 3 years. We used the same exact sources. It took us 3 years to get through benching. Benching outdid all of Shachris, from the washing of the hands in the morning, which we started with, all the way till, Aleinu L'Shabeach. Benching was 3 years of intense Kabbalistic studies that we did. And benching's like huge stuff. So it's so huge that it should be in Aramaic. Why? Because whenever you do something huge, you want to switch it to Aramaic. Why? Because the angels can only pass it up phonetically. They can't pass it up because the angels would never let us send through something that holy. So we switch it to Aramaic so that they can, because then the angels are stuck. They just have to do their job. What's their job? Just send stuff down and up. So in this case, their job is send up our avoda, which might be, for example, Kaddish, which is in Aramaic, or it's the Kaddish de Sidura that we say at the end after, Ashri Uvalet Zion, where we have the Aramaic Kaddish. That's where we slide it up, where the angels have no choice but to send it up phonetically. But when it comes to benching outdoes all of this. So what do? We wash the fingertips, because the fingertips represent extremities. And extremities think about it, if Hashem's light is what creates the creation, so that light comes down, and then it gets filtered by the oilamos, filter. And then the most filtered level is the extremity. That's the most extreme distance from the light of Hashem, right? The furthest from the bonfire, the colder it gets. And so when you're in the extremity, so we ourselves, human beings, are microcosms of the whole creation. And so our extremity is our fingertips. And that is what we give to the dark side. Like, oh, you want your little part of this service called Birkas Hamazon? Okay, here's your little Mayim Achronim. And really, women should wash Mayim Achronim if they are willing to. They should. It's better they wash Mayim Achronim. And you give the dark side a little bit of its little. You give it a little. Here's your avoda. Now leave us alone. And then we bench and we raise the Birkas Hamazon up, which is, again, this super high avoda, and there's such Eitzah around benching. I mean, Baruch Hashem in Eretz Yisrael, when you get bread, it's actually, you have to wash on it. Unlike when I visit America, I have to always ask, is this mazonos? And they're like, yeah, that's a mazonos tortilla, and yeah, that's a mazonos lachmania, and that's a mazonos everything, But in Eretz Yisrael, they haven't fallen for the mazonos business. But in benching out of a siddur and just sitting down a bench and saying all the words, and it's a really big deal. Now let's go to the Seder. So the Seder, on Seder night, you'll notice that the only one of all the simanim that has a connecting vav is urchatz. And we don't think about it because we just said it a million. but Urchatz actually has a vav that connects it. It's clearly letting us know that Kaddish and Urchatz are intertwined. And there's many ways that this is brought down amongst the various teachers throughout history, our Chachamim and Chachamot in this age. But there's a lot of great teachings, and one of them obviously is that kedusha has to come with purity. Kedusha has to come with purity. When someone is going for that kind of high kedusha type thing, but not purifying themselves, so then it's not the real deal. It's not the real deal. You can take any example, whether it be business, it could be like a relationship, like the kedusha is your connection to one another in a relationship. But if it's not pure, if you're not purely for each other, like really just each other purely, that's not kedusha. That's not connection, because kedusha is the connection. To be a kadosh means to be totally connected to Hashem, but you can't have kedusha without tahara. That's what we always say, kedusha v'tahara. We say in our brachos also in alamichya, the kedusha v'tahara, we say in alamichya. And because in order to have that kedusha, you have to have the tahara. And for example, if a thing breaks in half, I don't know, a cup breaks in half, so you can glue it back together, but you got to make sure the side, you might have to sand it a little. You got to get out. If there's any impurity in the connection, it's not going to stick properly. And so it's the same thing that we have to, that the Kaddish, the Kedusha of Klal Yisrael, it requires something from us. Now, really, Hashem could do it himself. Hashem's Hashem. Like, he can't sanctify the whole world without us. Like, he really needs us for sanctifying the world. Hashem can do it, but he gave us the chance to purify ourselves down below. We were given this ability to get tahara. You'll notice a massive amount of the Torah is talking about tahara, and in fact, right now we're in the parshas of tahara, and all the avodas of the avodah of Beis Hamikdash all had to be b'tahara, because the real connection only happens when everything is pure, when everything is right. That's basically what I want to share for the most part. Is the Yadayim Askanios, is the when you get yourself involved in avodah, is to wash off the Yadayim Askanios, wash off the over involvement in the world of doing, and then the other aspect is to have pure connection, that you got to have tahara, you got to have purity, and that's our orchatz during the Seder. Now, I always wash my hands when I touch wet vegetables or I touch wet fruit. I don't know how many people really do that, but it's the fact that it's in the Seder is really nice, because everyone gets that reminder. And that's basically what I want to share about it.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. I have to tell you, first of all, if anybody has any questions before we move on, if anybody has any questions for the Rabbi or for the Rabbanit, please feel free to type your questions directly into the chat. I actually just found out, Rabbi, I know that today's your birthday. I just found out that tomorrow is Rabbanit Shani Tarragin's birthday. I don't know what's going on over here.
Wow.
I like the fact that Hashem made this happen this way. It was not on purpose. I had no clue. So we have lots of power here. We're gonna need both of you to give us all a beracha, because of course on the day of your birthday you have that power to give us a beracha. So I hope that you will be able to give us a beracha before you head off.
Sure. I also just want to say that as the Rabbanit was saying, sorry, I was spying in on a woman's class, but I was listening to her class. What I wanted to say was that she was saying that this should all be our favorite holiday. Everyone's got favorite holidays, and I don't think a lot of them, not every person is a Pesach person, but I'd like to give everyone just a minute of an opportunity to become a Pesach person, because the exile that we're in is the Pesach story. This is it. Like that's just Do you notice that secular people like keep very few things, but they still keep certain things? And one of those things is Leila Seder. And you know why that is? That's because that's the roadmap out of this place. That's the roadmap out of exile for the big, redemption. We just finished Shabbos Agudel, and if you looked at the Haftarah, it was saying that that's Hine Ba, the Yom Agudel, that the great day is coming, and it's basically the roadmap. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have totally taken the Jews out of Egypt without even one makkah. Okay, but he wanted to make his name great. Your name's great when you turn the sea to blood, when you turn the Nile to blood, when you turn all the water to blood. Your name's great already, you did it. But no, he wants it greater and greater, and he's going to do 10 makkahs. So too in our history, what is going to keep us from the birth pangs of Mashiach is the road signs to know that this Seder night is the actual redemption. It's the actual redemption. It's going to happen around us. It's going to happen through historical events. And there's going to be an interplay of consciousness, because remember, Egypt represents constricted consciousness, and the leaving of Egypt represents the expansive consciousness, but every human being can come conscious. All of us can come conscious. We can become conscious now, and to be a conscious person is the name of the game for this time in history. So that instead of being amongst the turmoil, you're actually watching it and davening throughout it, and literally seeing the redemption happening around us. So Pesach is really what the whole history is leading to. It's leading to this Yom HaGadol. It's leading to a redemption klalis that we're all going to be part of. And that's why Bris Milah also stayed. Seder night stayed, Bris Milah stayed, except for, some very extreme, progressive types. But the rest of the Jewish people are still doing Bris Milah, no matter what denomination they are. And certainly Israelis are doing it. And these are the things that are all part of redemption. And that's what we're still keeping. And so please God, we should be blessed to have it.